Immediate treatment for stroke victims is crucial to reducing brain damage. Doctors have available medications that, if given quickly enough, can help slow the devastating progress of a stroke. Marta joins us tonight with part one of a special report about a treatment that may actually reverse the brain damage caused by a stroke. Marta?
Now, the treatment is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and it has been around for a very long time to treat scuba divers who develop a condition known as the bends as they resurface. Now, victims of stroke and brain injury are benefiting from treatments in hyperbaric oxygen tanks. Dr. Gary Lapid was paralyzed after suffering a stroke during open-heart surgery 3 years ago.
You can relax when she goes. Right?
I was in a coma for 3 days and then gradually began to get some use of my limbs back. First,
Dr. Lapid, who is 51 years old, turned to the Health Restoration Institute here in Mission Viejo for hyperbaric therapy when he stopped making progress with conventional treatment. Hyperbaric therapy works by forcing oxygen under pressure into the areas where blood flow is restricted. The therapy is usually administered once a day for 60 to 90-minute sessions for a period of 2 months. The intermittent nature of the therapy is to avoid oxygen toxicity while promoting healing.
Feel better?
The process of repair requires this intermittent oxygen. The intermittent oxygen, the oxygen given every day, allows for the formation of new blood vessels. And these new blood vessels supply the damaged tissue.
Dr. Steenblock says patients like Dr. Lapid have made remarkable progress even years after the stroke.
He has had a tremendous turnaround in the way he thinks. He is back to normal as far as his intellectual functioning. And when he came here, he was not. He was very slow and hesitating.
Dr. Lapid is a psychiatrist who practices in Palo Alto and teaches at Stanford. Both have been on hold since his stroke.
I plan to be able to return to my practice really when I leave here. I've got a lot of patients that are waiting for me to return.
Good job, Doc.
Dr. Steenblock says hyperbaric therapy should be among the first treatments given stroke victims, citing one of his first patients as an example.
She had her stroke at 9 in the morning. I got her at 3 in the afternoon, 6 hours later, and she was semi-comatose, drooling, unable to talk, unable to sit up. In 24 hours, she got up and walked out of my clinic perfectly back together.
How many places are like this around the country?
That's one of the problems. The clinic in Mission Viejo is one of only 2 in the nation specifically dedicated to this. Many hospitals have hyperbaric chambers, but the cost is much, much more in a hospital than it is at this one of these clinics. The other is in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, we'll look forward to your report tomorrow, Marta. Thank you.
From the United Paramount Studios, UPN News 13.
Some call it a miracle cure. Hyperbaric oxygen, no longer just a tool to cure deep-sea divers of the bends. Now it's being used to save limbs and even restore brain function. Deborah Frazier has had a stroke. Deborah says the HBO treatment is also working for her.
I couldn't talk for 6 months, and I can talk now.
NBC4, proud to be working for you.
Hello, I'm David Jackson, and this is Extra.
A car crash left this high school football star in a coma.
They told us that perhaps it might be better if we put him in like a nursing home kind of atmosphere because it'd be very hard to take care of.
But look at Matt Woods now. Next, an amazing procedure to battle brain damage, and your doctor may not even know it exists.
A few minutes without oxygen. That's all it takes for a victim to suffer brain damage. Well, now there's new hope for those patients, and it's a treatment that gives the brain a blast of fresh air, repairing the crippling effects of a coma. They're small steps, but for 21-year-old Matt Wood, being able to walk at all is a miracle. He's the victim of a serious car accident 6 years ago. He didn't die, but was left barely able to function. Years of intense rehabilitation made little difference. Before the crash, Matt was number 25, a talented 15-year-old running back for his high school football team. Matt's aunt, Linda Blackburn, was one of his biggest fans.
They told us that perhaps it might be better if we put him in like a nursing home kind of atmosphere because He'd be very hard to take care of.
But Matt's family would not give up. They had faith that there was a way for Matt to get better. And suddenly, they got lucky. They discovered a little-known treatment using a hyperbaric chamber that pumps massive amounts of oxygen into the brain. And within a few treatments, Matt miraculously was walking again. During Matt's hour-long treatments, he receives 8 to 9 times the amount of oxygen he would normally breathe. The oxygen gradually repairs blood vessels in the damaged areas of the brain.
It'll cut down the amount of pain and suffering tremendously.
With much rehabilitation, patients like Matt Wood learn to walk and talk. It's ironic that Matt made little progress for 5 years going through normal rehabilitation procedures, and yet the oxygen treatments had been available all along. But up until recently, few doctors even knew about treatments using hyperbaric oxygen chambers. They were built years ago to treat injured deep-sea divers who surfaced too fast. Matt Wood's recent progress has been remarkable. It doesn't seem like much to most of us, but his family has seen him change from little more than a vegetative state into someone much more like the healthy boy they once knew.
I take him to Las Vegas. I take him everywhere. I want him to know there's a real world out there.
The oxygen-rich environment of the hyperbaric chamber is also used to heal burn victims and scars from cosmetic surgery.
Hello, I'm Lyle Kilgore, and in this health segment, our guest is Dr. David Steenblock. He is the medical director of the Health Restoration Medical Center in Mission Viejo. Doctor, good evening.
Thank you for having me.
You do a rather unique kind of treatment at your center.
Hyperbaric oxygen is the one you're referring to, oxygen under pressure.
What does that amount to?
A person is placed into the chamber like a small little submarine, basically. They're given an oxygen mask to breathe with, and the door is sealed, and the air inside is increased so that there's more and more pressure. So there's a slow buildup of internal pressure, which forces the oxygen that the person is breathing all the way through their body and into the deepest recesses of the brain.
What is your background that would lead you to what you're doing now?
I was born and raised on a farm in Iowa. That doesn't count for much, but it was rather independent. My father was a farmer, and he always taught me to be independent, and I think that what I've always tried to do is make up my own mind about things that benefit my patients. After my farming career, I went on to Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, got a bachelor's degree from that school. Went to Des Moines, Iowa, got a master's degree in biochemistry there, and then and did an internship at Providence Hospital in Seattle. Spent 2 years in a rural logging town in Forks, Washington, and then moved to Case Western Reserve in Cleveland. Spent 3 years in residency there in clinical and anatomical pathology, and then moved to Portland. Spent a year in Portland at the university there in clinical pathology, then moved to Stanford and went into practice with a cardiologist there at Stanford for a year, and then moved to Mission Viejo.
Wow. Why would your method work in someone who's had a stroke over the past 4 or 5 years?
There are certain amounts of tissue that are still there that are not functioning but are still alive. And the reason they're not functioning is because they're not receiving enough oxygen. So our treatment provides enough oxygen for those cells to start to function again, and once they start to function again, they start to help the brain move the arm, move the leg, and so you're generating more power to be able to regain lost functions that otherwise will never come back.
Your patients mainly from the Southern California area, or?
They come from all over. We have people come from overseas. We've had some of the royal family from Nigeria come. We've had people come from New York, Florida, Canada. So people come from all over. People that are local come also.
Thank you, Doctor. It has been most enlightening on our health segment here. Now, in just a moment, a testimonial video of people who have been treated by Dr. Steenblock. I'm Lyle Kilgore.
I came from Dr. Steenblock's stroke center because I'd had a stroke. I couldn't lift my arm. I can lift my arm now. I can lift it above my head. I couldn't lift it at all before, and now I can lift it. And I couldn't walk. Well, I could walk, but I walked with a bad limp. He made me a brace, and I can walk. They tell me I will probably be able to walk without a brace in time.
I came in a wheelchair and was able to walk about a month later. The program here has helped me immensely. I'm now walking and talking.
When I called him, he told me that he felt kind of funny on his right side, and as soon as he mentioned that, and hearing his voice, being a nurse, I could hear the thick tongue, and at the same time he was saying, I think I may be having a stroke. And I quick made a call to Dr. Steenblock's office. He told me to get him in there as soon as I could.
She brought me a committee over here, and they tested me to see what my problem was and determined that I'd had a stroke.
When I talked with Dr. Steenblock and found that there are some aggressive things you can do with oxygen with the HBO, I knew as a nurse that if you took them to the hospital, yes, they would have an IV, probably some sugar water and or some half-normal saline with water. There would be no vitamins. There wouldn't be anything of this nature.
About a week later, I was able to get up and use a walker. About a week after that, I got rid of the walker and started walking myself. I'll be able to get back to work soon. We're walking well now, talking well.
Hi, my name is Kevin Wingate. I'm from New York City. I've been here for 3 weeks. Let's see, I had my stroke about 14 months ago. My left side was completely paralyzed, and getting some return into my left hand and arm. Things are much clearer, and I'm able to walk a lot better.
It was a massive stroke, and I was in the hospital, from November 22nd till January 4th. And then I was outpatient for over a year. So I was quite bad. My whole right side was immobile. I found out about Steenblock Restoration Center, and I wanted to get better. See, I can move my arm now. And I couldn't move it at all when I came here.
I was completely paralyzed on the right side. I couldn't even sit down, not to talk of walking. I've been here now for about 6 weeks. In the last 7 days now, I've done away with my cane. My hips are getting much stronger. I can now lift my hands. I can now box. Today, I play football. I can move my leg. Thank God.
I've got a little bit better balance now than I used to have, and it has even improved my memory a little bit. My foot doesn't feel like it's glued to the floor anymore.
Let me tell you that this hyperbaric oxygen has given my wife a completely new life. It's a miracle because she could never get out of that chair and walk without the help of her walker, and she can do that now after 19 treatments.
I can go to the kitchen now and get myself a cup of coffee and bring it back to my chair and put it on my tray. That's something I haven't been able to do in 9 years.
Hi, my name is Jim Wood. I come from New Jersey. My son was hurt in an auto accident. He had a head injury, plus numerous other injuries. His name is Matthew Wood. Before he came out here, he couldn't talk. His body movements were not that good.
My name is Karen Wood. My son is Matthew Wood, and he's been over with Dr. David Steenblock in the hyperbaric chamber. And we've seen such a massive improvement. I mean, it's been dramatic what's happened over the past few months. I haven't heard my son say mom in 4 years. And he does say mom now. He's walked across the pool unassisted. My son hasn't been able to do that. My son couldn't move his right leg. So the hyperbaric oxygenation, I feel, has been a great benefit to him.
My name is Linda Blackburn. I'm Matthew's aunt, and he's just a changed kid. Matthew's right arm was very close to his body and like frozen in position. Right arm. Since the treatments, he's been moving it and able to lift it. Show him how you can lift your arm away from your body up high. He's not in his wheelchair anymore. He's starting to walk alone with me. Hyperbaric oxygen is the thing that's starting to bring him back to life, and he's speaking and starting to walk, and it's just wonderful that we've discovered Dr. Steenblock's clinic and hyperbaric oxygen. Among his other therapies, we do physical therapy and we have speech therapy, but I really feel that HBO is the #1 thing that has helped get him to do all these other things, his speech, his walking. And there was a time when the complete right side of his body did not move. He would move his left leg, but his right leg didn't know, the brain didn't know that the right leg goes after the left leg, you know, as we take for granted.
Give me a high five, man. All the way out.
All right, hit it. All right.
Matt came back to our hometown, and his primary care physician saw him, and he absolutely couldn't believe it. He said it was a miracle.
He had tears in his eyes.
Yes. And he had tears in his eyes.
Yeah.
He just could not believe it.
This doctor used to climb. Matt couldn't get into his office. Lynn used to bring him up the hill. The doctor used to go out in the van to examine Matthew. That's how Matthew could not move. We used to carry Matthew everywhere. Dr. Steenblock stays on top of all the new things, all the things that can help Matthew. He's brilliant. He's always trying to find different methods, different ways, different... he has a lot of, so much knowledge that, I mean, just coming to see him, to talk to him, is important.
The progress that we've seen in Matt is, I think, really remarkable, but it's the kind of result we see with traumatic brain-injured patients and stroke patients because of the healing effect of the hyperbaric oxygen. The oxygen helps repair the blood vessels in the brain, and once these blood vessels are repaired, the damaged tissue is able to start to regrow and begins to function once more.
We're the Shares from Mountain Home, Idaho. I'm Dolly, and this is my husband Frank. He suffered a stroke February 8th, 1996. We farm at Havre, Montana. We have about 2,700 acres and have a clothing store in Mountain Home, Idaho. He has a hyperbaric in the morning and one in the afternoon. And I feel if the oxygen is doing him that much good, he needs the extra oxygen. I see terrific improvements. Today he was feeding himself. He spears the watermelon pieces and puts them in his mouth. He'll take a sandwich and put it in his mouth and eat it. I'll wave at you, he says. He wasn't doing this before.
Hello, I'm Jean Hall, and this is my husband, Dick, from Whittier, California. When I came here, I was in a wheelchair. We're actually planning 2 trips in August. The first part will be a family reunion up in Seattle, Washington, and the next one will be on the Delta Queen.
This was part of the incentive for her to get better, and with the oxygen and the therapy treatment, this encouraged her that she can go on this trip and be able to go down to the dining room and back from where our stateroom is on the deck above. So we're very encouraged that she's climbing 18 stairs up and down on her own now.
My name is Ruth Ann Johnson, and we live now in Lompoc, California. I've been mostly doing fine-tuning since I've been here, and that has been very important. My walking is better, my duration is better, my speech is better, and I just feel real good about everything.
She can go all day now, where before she used to get pooped out pretty early.
I'd be happy to walk for you.
Okay. She walks now, and we feel that the therapy we've gotten here has been a great success.
My name is Bertha Graves, and I live in West Hartford, Connecticut. When I suffered my stroke, at first I didn't even know I had a stroke. My husband came home, and I started acting as though I was drunk. He knew something was wrong, and I went to the hospital. And I was in the hospital and a week. And then I was 2 months in a care center. But they said, you'll never use your hand again. And I got all upset. And I said, my hand will not be like that. When I came here, I threw away the brace, I threw away this, and I threw away the cane the first week I came here. It's due from my hyperbaric, from the physical therapy, and those physical therapists are wonderful. I had daily treatments for 2 months. Now I can move my arm, see how my hand goes up like this. I can walk beautifully. I feel now that I'm 25 instead of 77.